Trump says he'll take over Cuba almost immediately. The Cuban foreign minister went on Fox News and called Rubio a liar.
We're going to be faced with an insurgency. It will be Castro 2.0. So it's the same plan.
And that all came crashing down with the first Trump presidency. It's been one of the most important countries internationally for upholding anti-imperialism, for upholding dignity, for upholding sovereignty. Cuba has a revolution that has very deep roots. They're very resilient. But the question is, how long?
Let's hop over to Cuba, because there's a lot unfolding there, and I know you have to go shortly. But they captured Maduro in January and cut off Venezuela oil. Now China is shipping rice because Cubans are starving. They indicted Raul Castro for 1996 something. It's unsealed on Cuban Independence Day. Obviously deliberate. And Trump says he'll take over Cuba almost immediately. Yesterday, the Cuban foreign minister went on Fox News and called Rubio a liar. Said he's deliberately deceiving Americans. Are we just seeing the sort of Venezuela playbook again, the sort of blockade, indict?
Well, no, because in this case, despite, we took Maduro out, but Venezuela is still running itself. And it doesn't need the United States, and the United States is not in a position to control it. If we take out Castro and try to take over the government, that's one of those you break it, you buy it situations. And then at that point, we're going to be faced with an insurgency. The Cubans, they're not going to give up. They've got guns, ammunition, and mountains, the Sierra Madre Mountains. It will be Castro 2.0 coming back. And the notion that, indicting Raul Castro for doing what was allowed under international law to shoot down a plane. And I received some additional information. One of those hermanos, the brothers, they were flying an aircraft that had U.S. Air Force markings, and this was part of a deliberate back then CIA operation to provoke a Cuban reaction, to try to create a predicate. And I saw this myself. Not so much against Cuba, but that's what was done against Panama in 1989, from middle of 1988 through 1989, because my branch, a girl named Alicia, she was the principal, she was the Panamanian analyst, and she was getting constantly briefed by the Directorate of Operations about all these different things that they were, provocations that were being carried out. So it's the same plan, is all I'm saying. It's not like they come out with, we got a new idea here. No, they're using old school stuff.
What do you think, Chris? What do you think? What are your thoughts about Cuba?
I spent time in Cuba. I studied there. I've been there many, many times since 2015, the first time I went. It's changed a lot, of course, because of the impact of the maximalist sanctions. I mean, in that period at the end of Obama's presidency, it was the best place to be. There was money flowing. There was tourism. There was a new sense of hope in the island and in its relations with the U.S. And that all came crashing down with the first Trump presidency and sort of the turn for the worst in terms of relations and the branding of Cuba as not only a state sponsor of terror, but part of the troika of tyranny, as John Bolton called Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua. So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy when you think about it. I think that from what I've heard from people, I just had my good friend Don Corder went down there, RT journalist, and he was down there just about a month and a half ago or so, and he said, "Look, it's difficult for the people, but it's not like they haven't experienced difficulties before. They're very resilient, but the question is how long? How long does that last? How long does that last? How long can the Cubans put up with it?" He thinks that they will resist, and I agree, and Larry agrees as well. They will resist. I don't know if the entire population will resist, but certainly a good segment of the population.
But we thought that about Venezuela.
We thought, okay, so the difference about Venezuela is that Venezuela was a hybrid system that brought its power, that was brought into power through the ballot box, really. And Cuba was a popular revolution, as Larry pointed out, from the mountains, from a small boat to the mountains, and then took the whole country and changed it from the Batista dictatorship and brought a whole new reality for so many Cubans. So, and it's been one of the most important countries internationally for upholding anti-imperialism, for upholding dignity, for upholding sovereignty, for fighting for the rights of the oppressed in the global South. So they are very different in that sense, that Cuba has a revolution that has very deep roots versus Venezuela that was brought into power via the ballot box, but it tried to maintain a balance with the bourgeoisie and the capitalist class. Cuba got rid of them altogether, right? Now Cuba's talking about market socialism in the Chinese sense, but in the beginning and for 5 decades, 6 decades, it didn't have that.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about Bolivia? And then we'll go into detail after you leave for our viewers. But Bolivia is in chaos.
Yeah, well, I have never been to Bolivia. I've been up to the border, La Frontera, in Salta, Argentina. But no, I mean, the U.S. goes through cycles. We ignore, for about the last, up until the last few years, we've completely ignored Latin America. I mean, so back in the 80s, man, it was the top of the list.
Yeah.
And in the 70s, it was, CIA was important with Argentina, Chile, again, countering communist influence. Then once we got to the 90s, once the collapse of the Soviet Union, we went, oh, who cares anymore? Mm-hmm. Just as long as the money keeps flowing. And that's where the drug money's played a significant factor. And with U.S. corporations profiting off of it, don't rock the boat.